Good morning, guys. It is Daily Doomer, and today I'm going to be talking about why shows suck nowadays. Yeah, just preparing for work, basically getting ready. And before I headed out, as I was eating breakfast, I was thinking about this topic. Why do shows suck nowadays? Now, at the beginning, I want to make clear not all shows suck. There are still some good shows out there. It's not like every show that is out there now is terrible. However, when you contrast to, let's say, nearly 20 years ago, we had Dexter, we had things like Lost coming out on TV, we had all of these great shows, maybe 10 to 15 years ago. Even like older shows, Battlestar Galactica, I just rewatched that amazing show. Even back in the 90s, even, when I was born, shows like Babylon 5 that was just much more plot centric and relied on the viewer's intelligence. Now, I want to make it clear that, like I said, I don't think all shows suck nowadays. But me and my wife were just watching episode 1 of season 2 of Silo, and this is on Apple TV. And Apple TV is actually pretty good from what I've noticed in terms of producing shows of quite decent quality. But what I've noticed is like we were watching episode 1 and it was just very boring. There was like 30 minutes of filler. It didn't really respect the viewer's time or intelligence. And it absolutely in no way did anything risque or try to actually push, narratives that were unpopular. And I think this is a big thing. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I think a big reason that a lot of these shows nowadays are so bad is realistically why there's no comedies that are made currently. If you go to any movie theater, you will almost see no comedies compared to what there was 20 years ago. And it's because our culture is so scared of saying something quote unquote inappropriate. This is a difficult topic. Obviously, you have the, DEI and you have like, diversity initiatives and everything like that. And, while maybe well intentioned in originally, what's actually happened is lighting has become extremely cramped on television. There's no new ideas or originality. And if you notice, both in video gaming, and I plan to, cover this in a later video, is actually my thoughts on video gaming and what's happened, the disaster that's happened in the video gaming space. But for today, television, the writers are just absolutely cramped. They can't do anything original. They can't say things even as characters that would be risky to say. If you notice, a lot of the writing is very muted. There might be a lot of, expletives and there might be a lot of curses and blood, but there isn't actually many original ideas. And I think a big part of that is just all of this parroting, where if a show is successful, you have 10 shows that basically just ape on it and really don't bring anything new to the game. Also, we're in the, with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, we're in an absolute sequelitis, where so many movies and shows that really were completely fine in the original version, getting just sequel after sequel after sequel. For example, a really good movie that I enjoyed a lot, Black Panther, the original. The sequel was absolutely terrible, in my opinion. And a lot of these are just forced. The studio executives, the producers are saying, okay, well, this made money the first time, so let's just continue to, produce these shows since the first one made money. But the problem is that the plot lines become basically non-existent and people get bored because in essence, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over. And, kind of the audience just has total fatigue. But yeah, I do believe these diversity initiatives. I think the general, quote unquote wokeness of society right now, and this is, I want to make it very very clear, as I talked about, and I'll talk about my last video, and I will talk about in future videos. I am absolutely not a conservative. I don't believe in red versus blue politics. But what I'm talking about when I say wokeness is I'm talking about an absence of thought. I'm talking about a growing 1984 dystopia, that is occurring in America where people can't think for themselves and they just parrot what other people say without actually rationally looking at it. Um, I think if people were just more willing to actually look at individual issues by themselves, analyze it, see if, hey, do I think this is true or not? They would be a lot better served. But there is a lot of bandwagon bias that is happening where people are just jumping on trains. And we see this in American television, which has had a terrible last couple of years, in my opinion. For example, I mean, you had the amazing Game of Thrones, at least the original series, right? Especially first couple seasons. And then, now we have House of Dragons. We have all of these derivative shows pretty much, I don't want to say uniformly, but most of the time these shows are getting panned. They are getting, basically very bad reviews. And for good reason. It's not that they're so bad in of themselves. It's just they don't have any sort of originality. They basically just do a duplicate of what's already been done before. And, like for example, if you were writing a book or something and you just took a book that you really loved, like let's say Don Quixote or something, and you just made a, fan copy of it with slightly different characters, it's probably not going to do too well. And, the big reason of this is it just becomes more and more boring. Every iteration becomes more boring because we've seen it before. I think this is really noticeable, especially in fantasy television shows. Let's say, like the Lord of the Rings TV series on Amazon. What an absolute disaster. To spend that much money, the Amazon spent, I think, like nearly $1 billion or something crazy. And for the show to be that bad is just shocking. But yeah, the show is very boring, guys. The show is just very kind of cut and dry, formulaic, has none of that, Lord of the Rings movie magic. It just feels soulless, and I think that's what a lot of shows nowadays have kind of had a problem with. Now there are some rare exceptions, like I don't want to knock on Amazon. I did enjoy the Wheel of Time series that they've been doing. I think that one is actually pretty interesting. Don't get me wrong, there are problems. But having read some of the source material for that series, the books themselves had problems in terms of characterization. So, especially with female characters, they had severe problems. I think with characters being somewhat unlikable. So the TV show does have to take certain liberties, and I think people, kind of really, really were unfair to Game of Thrones in that way of the later seasons. I don't believe they were as good as the early seasons. However, it does have to be said that they did try to do something original when they ran out of original source material. And I think that it wasn't as bad as people said it was, especially when we contrast it to current day television. Having mentioned Dexter at the beginning of this, video, which I thought was an amazing original series, to kind of combat a bad end, it had a sequel, like I think 10 or 15 years later, which was horrible. Just a travesty, terrible, terrible television. And now it's getting two more sequels, or a prequel and then a sequel. And I think this is just, honestly, guys, we need to stop. We need to actually focus on original programming, original thought, trying to actually, come up with new ideas or combine old ideas in ways that, give the television directors and producers a little bit more leash in terms of what they can do. Because right now, these shows are just atrocious, in my opinion. A lot of people are going to say this is just millennial nostalgia. You're always looking at older shows thinking that they're better. Like I said, there has been some really good stuff that I've seen lately. I did like C, which was on Apple Television, with Jason Momoa. I think this whole society of blind people, that was a really interesting, unique concept. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. I do have to go, so I have to wrap this up because I got to go to work. Working just kind of dead end jobs. I'm going to talk more about the economy very soon. Probably in my next video, I might work on the economy in terms of what I think is going on. But thanks again, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and leave a comment down below. See you guys next time.